Hello. Well, welcome to Steph's world. The world according to Steph. Love and light. And I'm taking a guess on this one. Part 4? Okay, guess where I'm at? I'm in my dream room. I'm sitting on a really cool couch. It's huge. It's the biggest couch I've ever had in my whole life. I figured out that two of me could sleep on this couch with plenty of comfort. And then over there is a swivel chair, and two people can easily sit down on it, and it swivels. It is so cool. I can't wait to have my neighbor's kids over. They're little kids, and they're just gonna have a ball, an absolute ball. Well, happy Labor Day to everybody. Um, I don't work anymore, not really. Um, I was writing until I did this, and frankly, I am going to write again before this is operated on. I have something really, really important to me that I have to say to the world. And I hope the world responds to it. I hope people read it. Um, I don't know about other people who write, but for me, it's really got to kick in. I mean, the intensity of my thinking, the intensity of my feeling, the intensity of what I feel is so important that needs to be said has to kick in. Now, it has kicked in a couple of times, in fact, more than a couple, but the problem is this got in the way. I may have to one finger it for a while. They're supposed to operate on it September 10th, and I'm probably going to put that off. I'm just not ready to have my hand in a cast. I'm just not ready. And I'm right-handed. This is my right hand. This hand is useless. It can't do anything. Now, I'm kind of depressed right now, and I'll be honest about it. It's a personal matter. It's a family matter. But I know that it happens in a lot of families. So even though it's a personal matter and it's a family matter, it's a world matter. And probably every family at some point has some kind of difficulty with these kind of things. I had 3 children. One of them I raised until he was 8 months old. He was my little sweetheart, and I loved him with all my heart and soul. But I wasn't getting any help like I had been promised. And now some people would say, well, aren't you mad at those people who promised you the help, blah, 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 blah. No, you can't do that. Yeah, I was for a long time, and it just about destroyed me. So, no, I had to make amends, and I had to analyze and research my feelings and figure out that I had to let it go. And I had to realize, too, that I was leaving my son with both a mother and a father, and that is the best thing I could have done for him. Now, what he does with the rest of his life is up to him. Some years back, 20 years ago, he came back into my life. He was a grown-up, but by grown-up, I mean he was really still a teenager. He was 19 years old, just turned 19. And my other two children were in shock. I made the terrible mistake of not telling my other two children yet. I had every intention of telling them, but I never thought that my first child would find me and seek me out so quickly. But he did. He did. Well, anyway, it was a happy event, but it was really strained too. Because when he found me, I had two other children. Now, their father wasn't in, he was in the picture, but he wasn't in the picture, shall we say. We'd been divorced an awful long time, and I'd gone to college. I had a great career. I had a great job. I made nice money. And I think he was, in fact, he told me this. He was expecting to find his mother on welfare, living in some kind of rotting away building and blah, blah, blah. What a shock it was to find his mother with a real nice house and a brand new car and two other children. And I know that it freaked him out. It really freaked him out. I know it did. I felt horrible inside that how could I explain to him that it took a long time for me to, it was we're talking years before I was married to this other man, and I had made the decision to go back to college. I mean, years. It's hard to explain that to a 19-year-old. Really is. So, even though he wanted to be with me as much as possible, and he got to know his brother and sister pretty good, or he tried to, there was always this feeling like he had been left out of his family. I understand that. I understand that so well. And I tried to bring him back into the fold. I did everything I could, but you know what? He had a family. So it was a confusing mess. It really was. And what made it even worse was that he was 8 months old when I gave him up for adoption. So we had pictures of him. We had memories of him. We had stories we could tell him. It was tough. It was really tough. And I know a lot of people have done the same thing. It probably didn't wait that long. I tried. I worked 2 jobs and it just wasn't going to work. I did not want my child to live in the way that he thought that I was already living. There was no way I wanted my child to grow up that way. Now, I'm not going to get into all the little ins and outs of this story, but suffice it to say that there's a lot of reasons besides just the fact that I wanted my child to have both a mother and a father, and a mother who was at home with him. There was a lot more. And it had to do with the way I was raised. Okay. Now, I had 2 other children with one man, my ex-husband. And I loved him. I really did. I loved him dearly. And we'd been together 2 years before I got pregnant with my son, Matt. Now, I got the motorcycles out right now. We got a bunch of them around here, actually. Okay, now, when I let my first son go, my parents were, I didn't tell them. I just did it. I made a decision and I did it. And believe me, I had help. There was a lady I worked with who used to be a nurse, and she was the one that really put it together for me and found the people and, assured me that they were everything that she told me they were. And I was young. I was really young. I was 20 years old. And for some reason, I trusted her. Now, after I signed the final legal papers, and he was already out of my home and in his new home, I went to my parents and I told them. And they broke down. And there was a reason why I did it that way. Because I knew that they would try to talk me out of it. Even though some of the things they were doing was part of the reason why I made a decision to do this. And I won't get into that either. We're not going to do the blame game. We're not going to do that. Life happens. It's just the way it is. Alright, now. So really, I just had 2 children in my mind. Okay? Yes, he came back into my life for 20 years. He'd been back. Off and on. I'd hear from him every now and then. I always kept the same cell phone number, so, just in case he called me, he'd be able to. Well, it doesn't matter now. I think he's out of the picture at this point. I haven't heard from him in a very long time. And my family feels that, the ones that I have a strange family. Some of my family feel that he's said his goodbyes, basically. And I guess he has, and that's alright. If you want to know the truth, I'm not crying in my milk over it. I'm not crying in my beer over it. I don't drink beer, but I'm not crying in anything over it. I want him to be happy. I want him to have a good life. And he has 2 parents. And thank God. Thank God. And even though I was married to my other two children's father, we didn't stay married. Nope, sure didn't. So for my daughter's first 6 years, she had a father that lived with us, and then after that, that was it. He wasn't in. He was in the picture sometimes, but not all that much. Okay, now my son Matt, he was 2.5 years older than my daughter. When Matt was born, he didn't replace his older brother. Don't ever think that. Don't ever think that. He did not replace him. But my parents realized some things about their lives. And Matt became like the number one thing in our family. Wow. He was big. Well, not big. Well, he was a big baby too, but they loved him like he was their own child. They loved him. My mother even babysat for me, and that was like unheard of. I could barely believe it, but she did. Well, anyway, let's get on with the story and get to the grown-up part. My kids grew up. They both moved out early. Shocked me. Shocked me to no end. I had tried to give them a good life, a nice home. I loved to cook, so they always got great meals. But I worked my butt off, and that was part of the problem. Their dad didn't come around very much, and I worked a lot. So I feel like sometimes that did a number on them. Okay, so they both moved out early. And my daughter had her firstborn at the age of 18, and oh boy. And, coming from early, having a child very young in life, I knew this was going to be difficult. I knew it. But here's the difference. This was her one and only boyfriend. They got married. In fact, I helped put that all together. So, she had a lot of support. She had his family supporting her. She had my family supporting her emotionally. So she had a lot going for her. And so my first grandchild is going to be 16 years old in just a few more months. And it shocks me to think about it, but 16, wow. And that's pretty cool, okay? But here's where the uncool part comes. I don't ever get to see my grandchildren. And my daughter is angry at me for some reason. And why, I'll never know. I'll never be able to tell you why, because I don't know. But she's angry. But anyway, It is her problem, and that's good, because I realize that it's her problem. It's not mine. But it tears my heart out. And here's the worst part. Matt, my dear Matt, died 2.5 years ago. Oh boy, that was tough. Oh God, that was so hard. When he died, I moved away from where I'd lived for like 30 years because I couldn't take it. I thought I was going to have a nervous breakdown. I really did. I had to move. So I did. I bought a house and I did it stupidly. Don't ever do it the way I did it, but gotta remember, I was in grief. I was in the worst grief any human being can be in when you lose your child. He was 34 years old. He was in the Army. Now, he was a hero. That's good news, right? I'm not making fun of the Army, even though sometimes I try to. That's just me. Actually, they were trying to be as good to me as they could. I will be honest, they did. They did a lot of nice, sweet things for me. Every year, they have certain functions that they want me to attend, and there's no way in God's green earth I'll ever do it because I'm so disabled. I couldn't possibly sit there through it. And I would cry. I'd cry too hard to do it. Because, see, I still cry today. And I will continue to cry until the day of my death. You know, I know Matt is in a really good place. I know that. But I miss my boy. I miss him so much. I had 34 years of Matt. And now I can honestly say that there's a huge difference between letting go of a child at 8 months old versus raising a child and then watching them move on with their life and them living until they're 34 years old. There's a huge difference. I can honestly tell you that. Okay, now, I had some difficulties with my daughter before my son passed. And he tried to stay out of it like a smart person. And I didn't go to him and say, "Man, what should I do? Blah, blah, blah." I didn't do any of that. I tried to not involve him. I mean, he was busy. He was in the Army. He was overseas twice. He got hurt really bad. And when he got hurt really bad, he died. 10 months later, he died. So I wasn't going to bother my son, who was fighting to live. Not in a million years. Well, anyway, you're going to have to excuse me a little bit because here's the deal. I have seizures. This came from a seizure. I almost broke the thumb. I tore the ligament so bad that they have to operate on it. I will be severely, it will be severely damaged if I don't, according to one of my doctors. So I believe them. And I've had a stroke. I've had 9 levels in my back fused. I'm full of metal. I had a brain aneurysm 5 years ago. I had it ruptured. It was a 6.8 millimeter, and it ruptured. So I've had a lot physically. Okay, but you know what I do? About every 2 days, I take my cane and I do my walking time. Me and the cane. Walking time. Hey, it's starting to get dark in here. Ah, shoot. I really didn't want it to do that yet. I wanted to do a little reading. This is my new special room, too, and there are no curtains because I've done that on purpose. Hold on. Let me do something here. Hey, is that better? Is that a little better? That light. Oh man, it's such a cool light. Oh, there it is. Okay, see, you can't see the light itself, but there's my little plant. Anyway, but that light, my mother gave me that light a long time ago. But to get on with this, and this is important, I know that I am not the only mother or father that is living with children or a child that treats her like a piece of dirt. I know that. I know there's a whole bunch of us out there. And we try to figure it out, and we never quite understand why we're the piece of dirt, but we're the piece of dirt. That's how we feel. That's how I feel. Now, I know I'm not a piece of dirt, and I know that I did my best to raise those kids, and there was no way anybody was taking those other 2 children away from me. Not in a million years. I'd lost 1 child. I wasn't going to lose my other 2 children. Anyway, sometimes life was funny. Sometimes life wasn't funny. Sometimes life was more difficult than my kids knew, but I didn't put anything on them. I handled it myself. Sometimes my children went through stuff that was tough, and I had to help them through it. Sometimes we went out and we had snow days, and I didn't go to work on those days, and we had sledding, and you know, I was from Chicago, so nothing kept me from driving in the snow, really. But you know, that was our life, and I thought it was pretty good, really. You know, there were some bad moments or some difficult times, but can anyone say in their lives of raising their children that there aren't difficult times? I doubt that they can, and I don't care how great you think you're doing. I really suspect that there'll be difficult times coming. I think that's part of life. That's part of learning. That's part of our children making choices in life. And that's us making choices in life. So anyway, after my son passed away, within 6 months, I moved far, far, far away. I came south, and I mean south. And I bought a nice little house, and I really thought that the house was the way it looked in all the pictures. It wasn't. It didn't. It wasn't at all what it looked like in the pictures. Boy, they had a good photographer. But guess what? The house is gorgeous now. And I'm not even done with it yet. I got maybe 1 or 2 more things to do with it that's kind of big. But that's it. Then I'm done. I have a home that anyone would love to have. Anyone would love it. And part of this I did even for my family, for my daughter, for my grandchildren. I couldn't wait for them to come here, and I could see, I can visualize my 3 teenage granddaughters lounging on this beautiful furniture and with their iPads and everything, and maybe it'll still happen. I'm hoping it does. And then I have a living room that I kept separate from this room. Nothing but iPads and iPods are allowed in this room. No other equipment allowed. This is not going to be a room for TVs or any of that kind of stuff. This is meditation room. This is getting with nature room. This is watching the birds collect their worms and the ants and stuff that they eat. This is praying to a God, a creator. This is a meditation room. That's what this is. And if the grandkids come, this is their room. To draw, to sing, to do whatever. But that's what this room is. And I hope and pray that they do come. And if any of you pray out there, pray for Steph. Because I want my daughter in my life. I lost my son. I let go of my other son a long time ago. So she's all I got left. And that's not the reason, but I love her dearly. I did a lot of things. You know, I looked back on life a little bit over the past few days. And truthfully, I made a lot of changes in my life because of her. I went to college because of her. If I had just had Matt, I would never have gone to college. Well, I might have gone, but not when I did. I did it because of her. There's so much I did because of her, and it was good stuff. It was all good stuff to help us, our little family. And you might say, well, then tell her. Well, I did. But right now, that doesn't seem to mean anything to her. It just doesn't. She's 34 now. She's the age that I lost my son. And when she turned 34, it was tough. Man, I was crying. And I know you're supposed to be happy, but it was like, good Lord, my son died when he was 34. I don't want to lose my daughter. And you know, the good thing is she understood. She understood. See, she's kind of strange that way. She can have it together and understand me. And then on the other hand, then we have these times when I'm not going to speak to Mom for 4 or 5 months. And Mom offered me a visit to come down, and I'm not going to take her up on it. So she won't get to see the grandkids. These things happen. The thing that I guess with me is I'm impatient. I really am. When I worked, the guys I worked with could all tell you that. Oh my God. You know, I was like the project manager, and then before that, I was the senior programmer analyst, database programmer analyst, and man, I had to have it now. Not tomorrow, not the next day, now. I wasn't even a boss, and I acted like one. You know what, though? I'm a lot better than I used to be. I promise you that. I'm a lot better. I can tell when I'm overdoing, overreacting. I can tell. And thankfully, I have one sister that I'm in contact with a lot. In fact, the whole family is. She's like the go-to sister in the family. Have any of those? Well, we do. We used to call her Chatty Cathy when she was a little girl. But, you know, we loved her so much. In fact, we used to think that she was going to be the youngest. Well, Mom popped out another one. That was the last one was number 6. Wow. 6 kids. But I'll be honest with you, sometimes I wish I could have had 6 kids, but it didn't work out that way. Now I see how good that would have been, because, you know, when one gets mad and another one isn't, it's cool. It's alright. I don't have that. When one gets mad, that's it. One's mad. You know, for y'all that are young, if you're watching this, pay attention. Your parents cry. Betcha. We cry. I'm going to turn 60 years old in 1 month. And that's an important birthday to me. It really is. And I was really hoping that my daughter, my granddaughters, and even her husband, that would have been alright, that they would all be down here, that I have plenty of room. And now that I got this room, shoot, there's plenty of sleep places. They won't have any trouble with that. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at that because we can't tell the future. We have to stay in today. Stay in today. You know, it's just like the world right now in Syria and all of that. My goodness gracious. What a mess. Really, what a mess. I mean, isn't it? We're sure not staying in today, are we? We're in yesterday, we're in tomorrow, we're in all kinds of places, but not in today. Don't get me on the political. That'd be dangerous. Well, anyway, I usually do a little bit of reading, and I'm going to do it, but this was about family and how difficult things can be sometimes. But you know, I will say this. Sometimes, believe it or not, it all works out in spite of us. Sometimes. Okay, about a little reading. Alright? And then I'm going to let you go because I'm tired. I'm real tired and I'm hurting. See, I got a lot wrong with me. Ooh, yes, that's why I'm hurting. Alright. My book. Okay, now this is Sermon on the Mount by Emmett Fox. I read it to you on a regular basis. And where we stopped before was where he says, Jesus Christ summed up this truth, taught it completely and thoroughly, and above all, demonstrated it in his own person. Now, we're going to get to the truth. Just hold on. Most of us can now can glimpse intellectually the idea of what it must mean in its fullness, and much of that must inevitably follow from a competent understanding of it. But what we can demonstrate is a very different matter. To accept the truth is a great first step, but not until we have proved it. In doing it, is it ours. Jesus proved everything that he taught, even to the overcoming of death in what we call the resurrection. For reasons which I cannot discuss here, it happens that every time you overcome a difficulty by prayer, you help the whole of the human race, past, present, and future. You know, every time I pick this up and I start reading, it's on something that I need to hear. Isn't that funny? We're talking about truth. Capital T, truth. That's what we're talking about. Okay, now, getting back to this. So, for you help the whole human race, past, present, future, in a general way. And you help it to overcome the special kind of difficulty in particular. Jesus, by surmounting every sort of limitation to which mankind is subject, and in particular by overcoming death, performed a work of unique and incalculable value to the race, and is therefore justly entitled the Savior of the world. Now, when he says race, he doesn't mean what some people would think he means. He's talking about humans, okay? Humans. So let's clear that up right now. This guy wrote this back in 1933, and believe me, he did not mean anything bad. At what he deemed an opportune moment in his public ministry, he decided to sum up the whole reaching in a series of lectures extending probably over several days and speaking probably 2 or 3 times a day. Ow. This arrangement has been compared by someone, and not inaptly, to a kind of summer school, as we have such things today. He took this opportunity to summarize the message, to dot the I's and cross the T's, so to say. A number of those present naturally took notes, and later on these notes were edited into what we know as the Sermon on the Mount. The authors of the 4 Gospels each selected material for his monograph in accordance with his own purpose. And it is Matthew who gives us, Matthew, my son? Nah, I'm just kidding. That was his name, no. I named him after Matthew from the Bible. I bet people are surprised to hear that would know me back then. But I did. And he was an amazing young man. And it is Matthew who gives us the most complete and carefully arranged version of the address. His setting forth of the Sermon on the Mount is an almost perfect codification of the Jesus Christ religion, and I have therefore chosen it as the text for this book. It covers the essentials. It is practical and personal. It is definite, specific, and yet widely illuminating. Once the true meaning of the instructions has been grasped, it is only necessary to begin putting them faithfully into practice and to get immediate results. The magnitude and extent of these results will depend solely upon the sincerity and thoroughness with which they are applied. This is a matter which each individual has to settle for himself. No man can save his brother's soul or pay his brother's debt. We can and should help one another on special occasions, but not in the long run. Each must learn to do his own work and sin, that's in quotes by the way, no more, lest a worse thing befall him. We're going to talk about the word sin one of these days. I'll have something interesting to tell you about that. And you might go, she said what? And I'll go, yeah, I said it. Because if you know me, I say what I mean. It's Steph for you. The world according to Steph, but in love and light. Okay. If you really do wish to alter your life, if you really do wish to change yourself, to become a different person altogether in the sight of God and man, If you really do want health and peace of mind and spiritual development, then Jesus, in his Sermon on the Mount, has clearly shown you how it is to be done. The task is not an easy one. Oh no, no, no. And I'm reading this now because I need it, don't I? It's not an easy one, but we know it can be accomplished. Because there are those who have done it, but the price must be paid. And the price is the actual carrying out of these principles in every corner of your life. And in every daily transaction, whether you wish to or not. And more particularly, where you would much rather not. If you are prepared to pay that price, to break really and truly with the old man and start with the creation of the new one, then the study of the great sermon will indeed be to you the mountain of liberation. I'm going to stop there, and that's where we're going to begin the Beatitudes. And I'm going to do these really quick, okay? I'm going to start heading into them because they are fabulous and they need to be done. So I love you all. And if you do pray for me, and I give you permission to, by the way, make sure that when you do it, don't pray for anything specific. Just pray for God's will for Steph. That's all. That's all you need to do. I love all of you. I really do. I'll talk to you soon.